Hi, I'm Jason Grover for ThatShelf.com, and we're here to look at Joni Mitchell's BLUE.
Big shelf.
Longtime fans of the channel will know I'm absolutely agog with Joni Mitchell. Had an amazing opportunity to see her last summer, actually. Flew all the way to Seattle and then to the Gorge to actually see what's ostensibly her farewell concert. I think there may be more appearances, but this was a chance for 27,000 of us to just express our love for this incredible talent. There's been some phenomenal releases of this particular record. It is for many her definitive. I'm a Court and Spark person, but there's so much to love about this album. This really was, for me, I sort of knew Joni as this sort of icon. Canadian talent was sort of put on a pedestal. A little bit like Leonard Cohen, the fact that it took a while for me to actually get into Leonard Cohen. It took, as you'll see from another album that I discussed recently, Famous Blue Raincoat, it took me another way sort of into Joni. But, you'd hear the song sort of out of context, but never as an album. And somebody played me Blue. It wasn't till I was way out of university. I had been listening at that point in time. I'd been listening to Kate Bush. I'd been listening to these sort of dark but brooding and beautiful albums from these incredible singer-songwriters, and had never really given Mitchell the shot that she deserved. Hadn't really had my ears open enough to sort of delve somewhere between the sort of straight up sort of twee folk stuff and the sort of weirder jazzy stuff. It was either Blue or it was Mingus, two very different records that actually finally sort of grabbed me by the throat and said, you really need to listen to this. And since then, it's been absolutely astonishing. I mean, I could say the same thing about Dylan. It took me another 10 years after Joni to actually get into Dylan. So the fact of the matter is that this is a record and this is an artist that is incredibly near and dear to my heart. And basically any really fancy version of this I'm going to be able to pick up. I'm going to do an unboxing of this. We're going to look to see what's inside it. It'll be pretty straightforward. Then I'm going to do a follow-up where I'm going to actually spend a bunch of time actually listening to this as a direct comparison to the Grumman remasters, some of the Rhino stuff, first pressings, and actually give this a good listen. But I figured since it's newly available, I would give people a chance to see it. Now, it is a 45 RPM one-step, limited edition of 12,000, two record set, and it comes in this slightly thinner box that Mofi is now using for their releases. I'm sort of in the middle of this. I mean, I think it's great. It was certainly for one way of easily delineating the 33s. I'm pretty sure Thriller was the first one that came out this way on 33. But this is slightly bigger and is not one of the clamshell cases like the other one-steps. It does mean you're not going to get some of the goodies like Simon Garfunkel came with that card. I don't think that's going to be included anymore. But we'll actually see what's inside. So this is the first one of these I'm actually opening of the 2-disc version of the thinner Mobile Fidelity set. Now I will say it is on Ultra Disc 1-step, which means it's on the SR900 vinyl, which is exceptionally quiet. Cannot wait. There's so-called Supervinyl. And by being on 45 RPM, the only way, as far as I know, that this has ever been released on 45 RPM was there was either a Classics or a DCC, or maybe both. There may be two releases, both of which I believe were unreleased, so that there's some test pressings and stuff like that floating out there. I believe Steve Hoffman himself actually was giving away one of the versions of Blue. That might have just been 33, because I know they did a Super Audio CD version on DCC. So it might have been his was a 33 that had never been released, and Classic had a 45 that had never been released. Regardless, this is obviously a brand new pressing using Mobile Fidelity's process, which is to take the original master tapes, do DSD 256 transfer, and from there run that through their system, which means often we're getting a sound which is unique to their process. And what delineates it has much less to do with whether the fact that there's any digital intermediation, but whether or not they actually decide to remaster it for vinyl in a way which distinguishes it from the original mastering. So this will sound inevitably different from the Bernie versions, whether or not Bernie's working from digital file or the original analog. Inside here we have, ye old box, usual stuff. And look, a bunch of documentation that does fall out. So we know that what happens with mobile fidelity is you do not get an actual regular version of the sleeve. That is one of the nice things that you get in stuff like the Analog Productions versions of their UHQR. You get like a real sleeve. If you don't want the box, you can take the record and just have it as a proper tip-on sleeve. Instead, what you get is this, which is a replication of the original album. Again, the color blue, very, very redolent of this record, as it were. Inside here, we have the lyrics, the quote-unquote confessional singer-songwriter stuff that she obviously very much did not want to be pigeonholed into, and especially when you saw where Joni's career went, it's so easy to think of her in this very narrow way. But then when you have stuff and you actually dive in, you realize that she's singing songs, for example, to the daughter she gave away to adoption. We didn't even know that at the time. There's some pretty amazing stuff. We have here Belonging to the Living, the most astonishing aspect of Joni Mitchell's return as a concert headliner in June 2023, after near quarter-century absence, wasn't the irrefutable triumph of the show itself. That'll be the one I was at. Nor was the legendary singer-songwriter's Oz-defying ability to relearn guitar, a richer voice, and refine other skills during her long recovery from a 2015 aneurysm. So this is Bob Gendron writing Belonging to the Living, an essay that's actually included on Mofi. I look forward to actually reading all of that. But this is what you get. These are the sort of bonus materials, as it were. And then inside, we have side 1, All I Want and My Old Man. Side 2, Little Green and Carrie and Blue on side 2. So, I mean, it's that sort of soft material. There's some flecking that goes on. You can sort of see. But, I mean, it is quite handsome with the gold writing. Inside here we have these sort of generic white and ye old Mofi sleeves. These sleeves that everybody just now thinks of as Mofi sleeves, but they're basically, I guess they're 1.5, 2 mil versions of the rice paper inside the poly. And the record itself, I am happy to say, on first look, there's some dust on it. There are some fingerprints or some sort of marks on there. There'll always be something. I don't know if it's just the way that the pressing is the fact that it's on the hand lathe, but what is relatively impressive is actually the amount of space here between the tracks. This is actually quite a lot of run out on these, which means that they're pressed right towards the edge. There's not a huge amount of bass on this record anyway, but it does mean we're going to get the most fidelity out of it. It is, of course, the it's going to be impossible to see, but yeah, it is translucent. And the record itself looks pretty good. Most of this sort of surface marking has never really affected the sound. And then on this, so hard to read in this lighting, right, we have all the rest of the tracks. I'll just do it. You know what's on blue. You don't need me to read it. But yeah, it's gold on black in the dark as I sit here and shoot this. Eyes aren't what they used to be. And they didn't used to be that great to begin with. As I pull this out without trying to get it, looks like it was slightly caught by some sort of glue there. No seam splits for what it's worth. These look okay. Certainly in the new box, they're not rocking around the way that they used to. And once again, we have a second record, because it's 45. California, This Flight Tonight, River. I will say what day it's on. It's much easier to read this way. In case of you last time, I saw Richard on side 4. Once again, right to the edge, a little bit of sort of ghosting. I think, again, I'm not sure if this is just part of the process of the heat transfer we're actually seeing. These ones don't look like fingerprints. I've seen some of these that they literally look like somebody sort of grabbed it as they took the record out and sort of embedded their prints into it, but that's not the case here. Anyway, I'm going to have a listen to these. I will be back with another video shortly, but I wanted to give a chance for those that were curious about what it looked like. It's pretty straightforward, but nonetheless, here's our celebration of Joni Mitchell's Blue on one-step vinyl from Mobile Fidelity. For thatshelf.com, I am Jason Gorber. Please follow us on social media, visit the website, subscribe, do all those things. I really appreciate it. We will see you next video. All the best. Take care.